Now I'm going to show you how to trim a bowl. In order to trim the bowl, you're going to need your tools, the cutoff wire, the needle tool, and the wooden knife. You're going to want your trimming tools or your loop tools, both the large and the small can be good. You may want your metal cap for stability. You will need some new or stiffened clay. It's not too sticky. And for trimming a bowl, you will also need the calipers. It's important that you make sure that the calipers are positioned correctly. These that are less pointy will need to measure the interior of something, and the looping section need to point at each other to measure the outside. So, and of course the leather hard bowl. So this bowl has been thrown, dried to leather hard, spent some time right side up and upside down, and is now leather hard. I'm going to take the calipers and I'm going to measure where it stops being a base and starts being a bowl. And I'm going to set those aside for later. I'm also going to investigate the pot to check and feel how thick the base is, how thick the walls are, and kind of visualize how much I need to trim. Next I'm going to attach the pot, but I'm going to need to center it first. So I will need to tap center my pot. I want to start the wheel off very slowly. I will test with my non-dominant hand on its side of the pot, and I'm going to tap it into the center. So when I feel the bump on my left side, I have to wait until it gets to my right side to tap. Sometimes it's easier if you feel the rhythm. So you feel the bump, 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 and you feel the rhythm, and then you get to tap it. And then you get back into the rhythm, and then you tap. Once you've tapped the pot on center, then you want to stop your wheel, and this is when you're going to use your clay. You want to make sure you put your clay on the opposite sides so that you do not move the pot. You put the clay up against the pot, but press it down into the wheel head. This supports the pot and attaches it so that it's not going to move around when we're trimming, but you don't want to smush it into your pot, mangling your pot, or getting the clay stuck to it. Always check to make sure it's still on center. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim the bottom so that it's nice and even. I'm going to work with my right hand, because I'm right-handed, on the right side, because I'm right-handed, into the center. And I just want to take enough off so that it's even. Remember that you should always be getting ribbons of clay. If you're getting shavings, then your pot is too dry, and if you're getting chunks or it's sticking, then your pot is too wet. Use your other hand for stability, and make sure you make nice even trimmings. You can use any part of the loop tool. Once it's nice and even, then we're going to use our calipers and our needle tool in order to mark off what we believe is the size of the base. We want to line up the calipers, the same end that we use to measure the inside, across the diameter, lining up the center as best we can with the calipers. We don't place the calipers down, and we stabilize everything touching with our hands and our elbows, but we will touch down the needle tool just gently. If for any reason you make a bad mark, you can always erase it just by putting your finger down, and then you can reline things up and then make a mark where you feel like it should be. You don't want to make it too deep, you just want a gentle mark. This is going to be your caliper mark. This denotes where you make your major caliper measurement. You're then going to make an outside mark, about 1/4 of an inch outside the caliper mark. And you're going to make an inside mark, 1/4 of an inch inside your caliper mark. The distance between the inside and outside marks should be about 1/2 inch, and that's going to be the size of your foot ring. You're going to trim outside the outside mark and inside the inside mark. The first thing you want to do is trim outside the outside mark. You want to place your cap in the center. It will stick to the moist pot, and your dusty, dry hands should slide on top of it. This will support the pot as you use the small trimming or loop tool to trim down the foot ring and to match the outside. Remember, the hands and the elbows stay there for support. Trim outside the foot ring, and you want to trim down and then into the pot. You're taking off a lot of clay, so you just want to be as steady as you can while still pushing and trying to make sure you remove a lot of clay at once. Flat tool will always take off just a little bit, whereas the rounded tools will take off a little bit more and dig in a little deeper. So if you feel like you're taking a lot off and you need to do it quickly, you can use the rounded tool. Continue the form of the bowl and then moving up into the foot. You can leave this as a smooth transition from the bowl into the foot ring, or you can define it by making it a little more pointed or angular. This may depend on the shape or form of your bowl. You want the form of your bowl and the form of your foot ring to be coordinated. We'll come back to finish this outside area later, but for now it is sufficient to move on. When you're ready to trim inside, you're going to want to use your small loop tool or small trimming tool. I still like to use the corner to trim inside. We want to mimic the inside, which right now, because it has a curved base, looks like a little bit of a hill. So I'm going to trim inside the inside mark, pressing down on the outside edge so that I can start to create that hill shape. If you have a shallow curve to your base, then you want a shallow hill. If you have a more pointed or deep curve on the inside, you want to make sure that you mimic that on the outside. Not unlike the dip and the cylinder, you will want to make sure that you can pass the flat tool test and that you can see light across within the foot ring. So as long as you're doing that, you're okay. To know that you're done, you want to make sure that this outside is curved with the bowl. You can see a little bump right here. I want to take that out. And then once this curve is complete, I also want to make sure this curve and this curve look like they would match underneath the foot ring that I'm making. For that, sometimes we need to lean over and get more of a profile view. Once you feel those two areas match, you can then form the foot ring. Sometimes you want to go under the foot ring to make it more rounded. Sometimes you want to round the bottom edge or put a bevel on it. You want to trim enough that you just get rid of that little line that you made from the caliper mark. But you don't want to trim so much off that you no longer pass the flat tool test or damage your foot ring, making it too thin or unstable to support your pot. Make sure that you coordinate the form of your foot ring to go with the form of your pot. When you are done trimming, always make sure you check your flat tool test, and then you know that you're ready to take it off. Remove the pot by removing the clay. Check the thickness. If you feel like you need to reattach this, when you go to tap center, you're going to need to test the foot ring to make sure that you're putting the foot ring back on center. If you feel like everything is done, you can clean it up with your elephant ear sponge and a little bit of water, and you sign your name inside the foot ring so that you don't make any marks that will scratch the surface the bowl sits on. Then you're ready to leave it upside down to dry.